All right, excellent. So what's up, everybody? I'm Messiah here at We Them Media. And what's your name?
Will Entrican.
Will Intrican. And where are you from?
Philly.
Okay, how old are you, if I can ask?
41.
41, okay. And how did you find your way to the Bitcoin Pizza Day?
Pizza Day here is the best. It's the best community in the scene, and it's connected to the NFT Philly scene.
Very well, very
Yeah.
well. And how's the party been?
Epic. It's always the best. It's a new venue here, so it's nice to see that they're trying new things, also because the other venue wasn't available. But yeah, and there's no band this year, but we did have plenty of music.
Yeah, and the vibes were cool. And I think this is the third venue I've seen.
Yeah.
Over the last 4 years, and it's super dope to see like new people here, old people here. I think it's always for me like an annual time to see the crypto community in the city.
The best part.
I brought my like 83-year-old great aunt last year. She was really tired. She said, "I've been here for way too long. I need to leave." You know, but she wasn't saying that.
And
She
she'll
was
be
nice.
back here next year.
We'll see. She's not talking to me right now, so we'll see. But you know, that's just family stuff.
Yeah.
But so you're the person who created the ERC-721 token standard.
Lead author.
Okay.
There's 4 authors. Yeah.
Okay. Who are your co-authors?
So Dieter Shirley is the creator.
Okay.
He is the second author, and we have 2 others in the community too. Yeah.
Okay. Are they like not doxed?
I think their names are out there, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just offering the opportunity to recognize them. There's no pressure.
Yeah, we got 4 authors, and they're all contributors, and it's a great flashback.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for people who don't like, I see Bitcoin as the fight against fiat.
Yeah.
You know, how do you see Ethereum?
Ethereum is, I just see it as Vitalik's creation, and I'd like to see him let it go. But I think the community around Ethereum is larger than that. And I feel like we are the people that are struggling to connect the real world to the future world. It's a very community effort, and that's where it is right now.
And what do you think about like that journey, right, to connect the real world? And that's kind of why I asked you that question, right, in those terms. I was hoping you kind of give some analogy, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you the NFT. So if Bitcoin is the challenge to fiat money, then Ethereum would be the challenge to centralized control of value and programs relating to value and securities. But NFT is really the connection to specific individual things outside of the nerd space. The applications I've worked on please do not hit that button, Ella. The applications that I've worked on have been related to very commercial things just outside of the crypto sphere. Agriculture, royalty payments of things unrelated to crypto. And now we're starting to see stocks come in here. So I think that is the most important thing is, the world's very big. Crypto is a small part. And so if we can connect the two, then we're going to bring some value into crypto.
I like that. Why should my grandma care?
She doesn't need to care. If your grandma was in Argentina, she would know about Bitcoin already, because everybody knows over there. When we have a stable currency, it doesn't matter. But when you are in an economy that has a currency that, when you're trying to buy foreign currencies just to keep your retirement money safe, that's when you really know about crypto.
Well, you're even just thinking about inflation, huh?
Inflation. The funny thing. So I was in Argentina, and I was talking to people. They're saying how they put their retirement funds into Bitcoin, and I said, "Oh my God, that's so volatile. Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin goes down." They're like, "Yeah, but the Argentine peso just goes down and down and down." At least Bitcoin goes up sometimes.
I like that one.
So no offense to the peso, and it has changed a lot since that statement, which was a couple of years ago. But you've got to think in other people's perspective, and from the U.S. dollar, that might not be the global perspective. So comparing Bitcoin versus one specific currency might not represent what a lot of people are thinking.
Oh yeah. I appreciate that. And I guess, do you feel like Ethereum is fulfilling on its mission right now? I have a podcast called Let's Talk About Ethereum.
Yeah.
Around the world. And, we're talking to builders in different countries around the globe who I've met going to conferences, like essentially the circuit, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about, what people are building and ideally trying to draw parallels between people working in like nonprofit industries, thinking about public goods, and people in crypto thinking about public goods. Because I think they kind of exist in silos.
Yeah.
But I think if we can draw those parallels for people who have, legacy knowledge.
What is public goods,
You're asking me?
Yeah, you got to pin it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say a public good is like anything that if it exists, it can serve everybody. And, it's like people think about the free rider problem, but I think in the capitalist society, we apply the free rider problem to too many things. Like I think it's okay to be a free rider on healthcare, on education. I'd rather you be my educated neighbor than my ignorant neighbor, right? Our ignorant neighbor is working out for us.
I mean, so this public goods, does that include DeFi? Does that include DeFi? If there's tokens, if there's holders of the tokens, Does that include L2s?
I think they could be public goods.
Yeah.
I think it's about the infrastructure, right? Like, are they extractive in nature or are they regenerative in nature? Those would be the questions I would ask most immediately. And it's okay. You're bringing some personality. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I appreciate the
Spice it
levity. And but it's a serious conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, is my bank funding my education or my healthcare or like anything worthwhile, or is it just making people rich?
Circular economy, ownership, equity. So these are concepts that perhaps DeFi can help us better understand and apply. I think you would get more mileage out of that understanding by reading Graeber and some of the anarchist books or whatever, and work with the direct action in the real world rather than crypto. So the real world's always going to be better than the financial world. And if we just relegate crypto to finance and a few specific applications, then that would be the tail wagging the dog. So if that's what you're taking away here, I think we can take that mindset away. I have a specific name for this. I call this moon dust. So like Bitcoin, Ethereum, this is on the moon, right? We're saying go to the moon, go to the moon. Well, why don't we just take some of that dust and bring it back to the earth? Some of the things that we've learned about stakeholder engagement, ownership, allowing your customers to own your product, involving them in the decision making at the deepest levels of ownership of your company. Like, these are things you can do in the real world. So I don't think that needs to be exclusive to crypto. But because of the people that are physically there now, we're getting a population bias of the type of people that are building in the sandbox. So it's fun, but these are ideas that are bigger than us, bigger than crypto, and bigger than frankly all the people that are near this stuff. So I love what you're thinking with this, and I don't want to keep that in crypto. I don't want to say that's a crypto thing. I want to say that's a us thing.
Which thing though? When you're pointing to like this moon dust, like what's the us thing?
The us would be your concept of you had a name for it. It was stakeholders, not stakeholders. You said public goods.
And the free rider problem is like
yep. So, but we can implement that concept here. You can just buy a pizza shop and you can publish your finances and vote for your staff and vote for the amount of money that your staff makes using a DAO. But you don't have to use a DAO. You can just use the receipts, and you can have QR codes on the receipts that you sell.
Yeah, you can create a whole organization structure. It's not at all profit-centric, but it's self-sustaining and still creates value for community.
Who said it doesn't have to be profit-centric?
I'm just saying it can be. It's an option.
But you can have multiple layers. B corporations don't have to be anti-profit.
It could be a spectrum. We're
right?
unlocking a spectrum.
Right. So these are the concepts that we've tried, and so we can point to these test cases and we can bring them back. Switch topic. In the beginning of crypto, we were all thinking about self-custody and hardware wallets, and people are thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get my family member who's older into this ecosystem if they have to write these 12 words down? I said, well, that's not how it's going to work. They're going to use a custodial wallet. Somebody's going to hold their money for them. Oh my God, that's anti-crypto. No, what's going on is the first people that came to crypto were hardcore. And so that's a bias. Not everybody's going to be like that. So when we bring the rest of the world in, of course they're going to do the same type of banking with crypto that they do banking with money, right? So as the thing expands, you're going to meet them where they are, right? So let's take that with public goods. That's an amazing thing. But the fact that we are using public goods in crypto right now is only specific because the people that are there now, the first people that are in crypto obviously are self-sustaining and they don't need jobs, right? So they can think of these other stakeholders. But the people that have jobs, we have to convince them that there are other stakeholders in life. We have to convince them of how they can, structure themselves. And so that is the dust. So we've been to the moon. We're coming back, and we're bringing the dust, and we're sprinkling it around.
Oh, and so it's like this new world of possibilities, like these new kinds of structures around which you can organize, these new ways in which you can make decisions. Is that what you're pointing to?
Yeah, value systems, just values. We're bringing the values back.
Or making them more explicit, and then letting them be negotiated. Is that what you would say?
It's the flag. So we're bringing the flag, and we're rallying around this new flag that we saw work under. Let's say if you believe that DeFi is a public good, could be, might be not be.
I would say so. When I think of Aave, I don't know, is Aave owned by somebody?
So pin it down. Why is it a public good?
I mean, the reason that I would say that is the premise that it's decentralized finance, right? As opposed to it being a bank that's making money off of me. I can go and buy ownership, in their token, right, which gives me exposure to the upside of the organization.
You could buy shares in Capital One, and you could bank at Capital One. How's that different?
I think that's a good question. I think that it's on the blockchain and there's explicit rules for governance, which are allowing people who can anybody anywhere in the world can buy access to it. That's not true.
Capital One also has explicit rules for governments, and they have board of governors. This is a trick question. There's an actual answer here.
Is it borderless still, like Capital One?
The rules are enforced. The rules cannot be rug pulled. So that's the thing that's missing here is that the
I was hoping it was that it's in America.
So I mean, it's global. Nothing is American. Companies are not American, because the shareholders can be anywhere. So
I feel like I went to the Caribbean for on Oasis on chain, and they were talking about people there can't get access to buying like certain stocks and things like that because they're like blacklisted from the U.S. like stock exchange, and so there are markets right which aren't able to.
I mean, I can buy Chinese shares through ADRs.
There's always a way to do it.
Which then, under a previous president, they had to fire sell them. So I'm cutting my legs out of that argument. But yeah. So you can travel. Yeah, you can travel to buy your shares where you want. But I think the offer that crypto has is that it's a rules-based system. America was founded as a rule-based system. It has values. We the people. That was the value statement. But then the enforcement is a rules-based order. And so the international order we say now is a rules-based order. Not actually that.
Do you want to open? I don't know if I said his name right. Do you want to open the door for her? I think she's trying to come in. Yeah.
Cool. So if the rules are what makes the things valuable, then having the rules be the fundamental part of your system, aka smart contracts, then that is a more perfect implementation of what you're trying to do as public good. So I want to test your thesis because we do have stakeholders, we do have bylaws in the U.S. in corporate finance, and so we have to see what is the missing nugget, and it is the actual enforceability.
Would you agree that Ethereum is the only DAO today?
DAO? No, not really. To be continued.
A lot of DAOs were like just even like.
There's my.
It really probably is the
Thank
only
you.
DAO.
The only DAO.
Name a DAO. I feel like that should be our next word. No, it's like when you talk.
Good job.
It's like
Good
when you
job.
talk to somebody about
Very nice.
name a DAO.